They torched $400,000 worth of my ready-to-harvest corn at 5 in the morning. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. Picture me standing in my kitchen halfway awake pouring coffee, when out of nowhere the sound of chainsaws just rips through the air, makes the windows shake. The dog starts barking, and I look out to see Brenda Thornfield, our self-appointed HOA queen, out there revving up a neon orange chainsaw while wearing a white pantsuit that probably costs more than most folks' trucks. But she isn't just cutting down corn. She's out there hacking apart the irrigation system I spent 3 years building by hand, slicing through those silver pipes like they're birthday ribbons, diesel fuel, pouring out all over the field, mixing with the dew until she climbs up on my granddad's 1962 John Deere and starts swinging a sledgehammer at the engine, and I swear I counted 23 times. Then, with her suit still bright as a searchlight, she pops the cap off a road flare and tosses it into the soaked corn, lighting up 1,000 acres that were supposed to pay for my son's college. She's filming herself the whole time, sipping from a world's best HOA president mug while my future literally burns behind her. So tell me, what would you have done if someone torched your life's work to make room for McMansions? Where are you watching from right now? Because if you're not sitting down, you might want to. This is how my nightmare began. My name's Jackson Hartwell, Jack to anybody who's ever shared a fence with me, and I'm the third generation Hartwell to work this Nebraska land. My granddad homesteaded these 1,200 acres back in 1923, back when a handshake meant something and neighbors didn't file lawsuits over the smell of cow manure. 2 years ago, I lost my wife Sarah to cancer, and after that, the only thing keeping me sane was the morning routine: fresh coffee, that sweet prairie wind, the click of sprinklers, the way that black dirt crunches between your fingers, sunrises painting the corn gold, even when your heart feels hollowed out. My kids are trying to make sense of it too. Emma's off at college learning ag business. Tyler's a high school senior who can run a combine better than most grown men. This farm isn't just how we survive, it's who we are. But then the California invasion started. Sunset Ridge luxury homes sprouted up just east of us like weeds. 37 McMansions full of people running from their own tax nightmares. Most kept to themselves, but then Hurricane Brenda made landfall. Brenda Thornfield, age 58, fresh from a Malibu divorce, rolling around in a white Tesla, never wears the same designer outfit twice in 6 months in. She'd bullied her way into being HOA president. Her whole campaign was about eliminating rural eyesores to protect property values. First shot fired, a certified letter about agricultural odor violations. According to Brenda, my century-old fertilizer practices were so offensive, they violated her neighbor's constitutional right to clean air. She demanded I stop using manure in 30 days or pay $500 a day in fines. So I call her up. I say, "Lady, this was a farm before your fancy suburb even existed." She says, "In that I do Pilates with my lawyer voice. We're curating a lifestyle community. Your agrarian activities are incompatible with our investment portfolio." She made agrarian sound like meth lab. Turns out, when the HOA incorporated, some bureaucratic genius accidentally roped my land into their boundaries. Last owner didn't read the fine print. So now I'm stuck in Brenda's suburban web. Pro tip: always check those HOA maps before you buy, or you might wind up like me. My lawyer sat me down over burnt coffee and told me straight, unless I could prove fraud, I was playing by their rules. The community split right down the middle. The real locals, the Kowalskis, the Murphys, they had my back. The Villa folks half thought Brenda was crazy, half bought her story that farming would tank their precious home values. Even the mayor tried to stay out of it, more scared of lawsuits than anything. But Brenda didn't just stop at letters. She started marching up to my property line with a measuring tape, a camera, sometimes a bored-looking photographer documenting everything: corn height, tractor locations, even what time I started chores. The breaking point, I caught her husband Terry sneaking around my soybean field at 2 a.m. with a surveying kit, told me he was doing nocturnal compliance checks before sprinting back to their Tesla. After that, even my border collie Rex learned to bark every time he heard a white Tesla coming up the road. The neighborhood kids called it the Brenda Alert, more accurate than the weather. But I didn't get it. Then Brenda wasn't just some bored housewife. She was fighting for her financial life, and my farm was the only thing standing between her and bankruptcy. 3 weeks after the stink letter, she cranked it up, showed up with a yellow measuring stick, a photographer, and a clipboard thicker than a tractor manual. "Mr. Hartwell, your corn exceeds maximum vegetation height." She measured 8 foot 4 inches and announced, "Community standards require all vegetation be below 8 feet to preserve the villa's scenic views." I just stared at her. "Lady, that's not how corn works." She handed me another letter, this one with fancy seals from the craft store telling me I had 72 hours to cut all my crops to 6 feet or get a $1,000 a day fine. That night, I remembered my late wife's research. She did her thesis on the Right to Farm Act. Turns out Nebraska's laws protect old farming operations from this exact kind of nonsense. So I filed a complaint with the county and installed security cameras everywhere. 3 nights later, my cameras caught a white Tesla plowing through my soybeans at midnight, crushed $3,000 worth of crops before getting stuck axle deep in the mud. Next day, I confronted Brenda. She was power washing her Tesla in designer jeans. "Brenda, what were you doing in my soybeans last night?" She didn't blink. "Conducting compliance measurements." I said, "You destroyed $3,000 worth of crops." She goes, "That's unfortunate. Maybe try growing shorter vegetables." I wanted to lose it. Her insurance company just laughed. Intentional property destruction isn't covered. Suddenly, Brenda's protection was gone. The Murphys started a Facebook group, support local farmers, 400 members in a week, posting stories of HOA nightmares and pictures of my wrecked crops. Brenda tried starting her own group, Property Values Matter, topped out at 47 members, mostly California transplants who'd never seen a plow. Meanwhile, Rex the Border Collie turned into a viral sensation. Kids even made a Rex Alert app to track Brenda's comings and goings. Messages poured in from farmers in 3 states. The real twist: the county zoning board found out HOA can't include existing farms without written consent. If I played my cards right, we could dissolve Brenda's HOA for good. My granddad's original homestead papers and 75 years of proof put me in the legal clear. Still, I held off. Some villa folks were just duped by Brenda, not bad people. I watched as her empire started to crumble. Her photographer quit, villa owners backed out. Then she dropped the hammer, called an emergency HOA meeting to ban all farm equipment within 500 feet of any home right before harvest. Without my combines, 400 grand in corn would rot in the field. I stood up in that city hall and told her federal law protects farm equipment during business hours. She just smirked and said, "Maybe whisper to your crops, Mr. Hartwell." But the moment that flipped everything, Martha Kowalski, quiet as a church mouse, stood up in the back and said, "Before you vote, you should know Brenda owes $2.3 million to California creditors and needs property values to refinance. She's trying to force Jack to sell so she can cash a $50,000 kickback. The board split. The ban failed." That's when Brenda lost. It screamed at the whole room, called us rural peasants, and threatened to bankrupt the lot of us. The next morning, 200 people showed up for a farmers' rally in the town square. Tractors ringed the courthouse. News crews filmed us, kettle corn mixed with diesel fumes in the air. Then a man in a suit walked over. "Detective Rodriguez, California Attorney General. We've got evidence Brenda embezzled 400 grand from HOA funds, betting she'd flip your land for a fast profit. My lawyer told me, Jack, this isn't an HOA, this is organized crime built on your land." A week later, Brenda tried her final move, petitioned the county to rezone my land, making farming illegal, so I'd have to sell to her developer buddies. She brought in a consultant from Sacramento who'd probably never had dirt under his fingernails, arguing my farm was inefficient land use. But Walter Barnes, retired county agent, stood up with 40 years of soil records, held up a jar of my black dirt and said, "This is prime ag land. Rezoning it is like turning the Louvre into a strip mall." But my security cameras caught the real game. Brenda sneaking developers onto my property, promising he'll be gone by Christmas. She even bragged that subsistence farming looks pathetic. That night, digging through Sarah's files, I found my granddad's 1923 senior water rights to Willow Creek, meaning I legally controlled all the water that supplied Brenda's whole villa project. My lawyer said, "Jack, you could cut off every drop tomorrow." Then things turned ugly. Sabotage at 3 in the morning. Hoses cut sprinklers, smashed 18 grand in damages. But the community rallied. GoFundMe hit $45,000. Volunteers rebuilt. And the media turned my fight into national news. Judge Miller granted a restraining order, and my lawyer filed for federal protection under ag laws. Even Rex got famous, sponsored for guarding the crew. His own merch line funding legal fights for farmers statewide. Digging deeper in Sarah's files, I found proof Brenda had forged HOA incorporation papers, using whiteout and a photocopier to illegally rope in my land. She'd mailed the fakes to county officials. Classic federal mail fraud. Detective Rodriguez's evidence showed Brenda borrowed 600 grand from investors, promising sky-high returns by forcing me off my land. With all this in hand, I was ready for war. Brenda found out and snapped arson at my equipment shed, destroying cameras, insurance docs, 3 generations of records. Security cameras caught a man dumping gas cans, fleeing to Brenda's Tesla. State fire marshal called it textbook arson for hire, possible federal terrorism. Brenda tried bribing the county prosecutor, only he was already working with the feds, recording everything. So Monday night comes, the courthouse packed, overflow crowds watching outside. My lawyer lays out the real and fake documents, evidence clear as daylight. County prosecutor says Brenda Thornfield is under federal investigation for fraud, bribery, conspiracy. Judge dissolves, the HOA nullifies every action against me. Then the FBI stands up, arrests Brenda on the spot. She screams about peasant farmers destroying property values, but this time nobody's buying it. The best part, my grandfather's water rights meant I now controlled every drop the villas needed to survive. Villa residents who'd backed Brenda realized their water and home values depended on the farmer they tried to ruin. Rex got the key to the city, and my fight sparked new laws protecting farms like mine across a dozen states. 6 months later, my farm's still here, stronger than ever. Brenda's villa was bulldozed and replaced with wildflowers. Emma's practicing ag law. Tyler's bringing solar to the old place. And Rex, well, that dog has more fans than most politicians. Sarah would be proud her research saved our family's legacy. So I'll ask again, what would you have done if an HOA tried to wipe out your family's future? Drop your own HOA nightmares in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, and let's make sure these stories keep rural America strong. And hey, don't forget to subscribe. Next week's story. You're not going to believe how a retired librarian stopped a casino from bulldozing the town cemetery.